welcome to BTG, Bridging the Gap, Strategizing for Student Success. My name is Marisa Bludorn. I am the editor-in-chief of BTG Magazine, and I am the founder of BTG, Bridging the Gap, Strategizing for Student Success, where we talk about all things youth leadership, empowering the young person to become the CEO of their life, their career, or their business. And so taking center stage is senior contributing writer, Coach Ray, and Stephanie Malinch is in the house. Hey, today we are focusing on, building confidence and mastering our young people's mindset, just waking them up to the fact that they can master their mindset, that is something that they should even be aware of. I know that oftentimes we talk about the conversations that are being held with our young people and how some of these are overlooked, not intentionally, but just because we're not thinking about connecting it with our younger generation, being conscious, mindfulness, right? And the more that a young person is empowered through self-awareness, the more that they are likely to be more successful in navigating through this thing called life. And Coach Ray, I already know you're sitting on the edge of your seat, ready to dive into the topic as always. And so I'm gonna yield myself to you because you're in the room, right? Where it's happening. And so Coach Ray, lead us on. Talk to us about mindset and how it relates to building up confidence in our young people.
I love this topic right here. You already know. Mindset is everything. And unfortunately, these young people don't understand the significance of having the right mindset when moving forward to their goals. A lot of their mindsets are focused on and based on what everybody else assumes and how everybody else wants them to be portrayed. But the goal now, and I see it in the hallway, is a lot of their mindsets are affected by their peers, which is not an anomaly. It's something that's commonly done. However, this generation eats, sleeps, and breathes it. They don't want to break away from it because if they break away from it, they feel like they'll be alone. And so what I do as in my position and even things that I do outside of the school when I coach, outside coaching for kids, I do mindset shift. Like that's the big focus is we trying to get you to change your mindset and stop feeling like your value rests in the thought processes of other people. It doesn't. And this generation reacts and moves off of other people's mindsets. And that's where we are right now.
Wow. So this is the biggest challenge. And then Stephanie, I'm going to let you chime in. Mm-hmm. The big young people, youth, they say the youth is wasted on the young, right? Because it's not until later on in life that you realize, I wish I would have, should have, could have, but I didn't. The key to me in the challenge, and we as, the older generation, so to speak, I think needs to put in the forefront of our minds is how we shift them from being focused on just the present. The present is critically important too, to project into the future, right? And when you have your mindset to be thinking in a way that says, hey, should I do this right now? And what are the consequences, beyond this very moment? What are the consequences of this? And to bring that in a way that becomes a discipline for them. I know that it's not going to be done overnight. And I know that it's never going to be flawless, but just getting them to start slowing down and not just being in this moment, but what happens tomorrow and the next day and the next day after. I think that that's also too something that needs to be a part of that mind shift as well. Stephanie, what's your take?
My take is kids, if they think they don't, it's kind of like teaching a toddler to eat food. They don't like it the first time, they're not going to keep eating it. In academics, they don't think they're a good writer, so they don't want to write. They don't like doing math, so they don't try doing math. They're like, it's never going to get me anywhere. I'm not any good at this. that mindset is going to hurt them in so many ways later on in life. Even in athletics, Coach Ray, I bet your best athletes are there before you tell them to be there, and they're still there afterwards. And it's
in a perfect world.
Yep.
Well, I can remember in cheerleading when I used to go to. Yeah, there would be those of us. And of course, we're dealing with a different generation, a different mindset, a different culture, a different society. But I would always hang out. And I'm going to tell you too, even in my meetings now, I'll finish and say, does anybody have any questions? I must lean in. And Stephanie, you're there. I must lean in a couple of times. Does anybody have any questions? Nobody has any questions, but no one is leaving the room because those people who want to become proficient are hungry. And proficiency doesn't come with. When I first started working with Toastmasters International on the youth leadership development level, and kids would be self-conscious, and I would say to them, "Listen, you own the room. When you step up in the front, you own the room. If you take a deep pause for whatever reason, you own that. Like you don't have to." You're on a timer, but you don't have to rush yourself because you are in command of the room. And when we make, there's an understanding that young people have ownership, that they don't have to because everyone else does. And that is more effective when you have that, approach when they're small. But it's not to say that that's the end of it, that you can't introduce or inject this different way of thinking. And it's up to them as to whether or not they want to own that, but that they can have control. And when I said to that young people, it introduced a different way of seeing things and a different way of how they can show up. Now, they can cultivate that and stuff. When you introduce new information or knowledge, it's not necessarily that you're going to see an immediate behavioral change. However, you've planted a seed in that young person or that individual that says, hey, the grass is not always greener on the other side. Look at the other side and the other side and the other side. There are so many different ways that you can view something. Just like you said, you're always going to be awkward in something that's new. Proficiency doesn't come without practice. And so you have to stay the course. And as adults or coaches, anyone that has any kind of leadership capacity with young people has to not allow them to so quickly walk away from things.
I think that is one of those things like what nowadays is, unfortunately, like as a coach, you try, right? Like you try and you like a kid. I remember I had a couple years ago, we had a young man who quit the team because he felt entitled to the starting quarterback position. He got beat out. Which there's a quarterback competition. You lose it, you lose it. All right, you're back up now. Okay, no harm, no foul. But because he felt entitled to it, he gave up because he didn't get it. So the day he came to me and we sat in my office and we talked, and I'm like, look, it's the beginning of the year. There's no guarantee that this guy won't mess up and you won't take the spot. You try to get them to see things from a different perspective. But a lot of times with these young people, like mentality is, if I'm not going to be the focal point, I don't want to do it. And that's not a them thing. That's it ingrained in them because the adults and I hate to say this, and a lot of people get upset when I say this, there's a such thing as overpraise. There's a such thing as over nurturing to the point where your kid doesn't think that anybody else exists. So when you get that kid in that mindset that, well, every opportunity should be mine, and then that opportunity doesn't come, they quit. And it's like, no, you just need to work a little harder to beat this guy out. It doesn't mean that you can't get it. It just means that you weren't guaranteed to have it. So that's the big thing with mindset shift is a lot of these young people don't want to actually shift their mindset to the point of, I got to apply some effort here because everything ain't guaranteed, but that comes from home with the over nurturing when the kid just they don't know how to receive no. They don't know that it's a possibility that you may not be the line leader in this class. And you may not be the star. They don't know how to handle it.
Right, right. So you hit a few things. So you know, when they don't know how to handle that, that's a building of character, right? So the character building takes place whether you give up because and the importance of understanding team. You're a part of a team too. So your talent may not be the top talent, but it is a talent or a gift or a skill set that the entire team as a whole needs for them not to walk away. So a lot of that has to do with character building as well. And just like you said, everything in balance, right? So you want to love your kids. You want your kids to know that you love them. You want them to also feel confidence too. But you got to teach them that balance and by not just thinking about the moment, but being in the present, but also to projecting out. Delay is never denial. Just because you didn't get it today does not mean, just like you said, it's not gonna happen. And the key is really teaching our young people to be open-minded and having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset where they're like, well, if it didn't happen, then that's it. Well, take that challenge and turn it into an opportunity. Develop your skill set. I can remember working with a client and the client had some delays. Well, at the time that the client was having delays, I was ready to do the work with this particular client. Later on, the client no longer has delays. Their time is open. Now they're ready to do the work. Well, guess what? My time is now not available. The difference in how my client showed up and how I showed up was with patience and saying, hey, this delay does not mean that there's never going to be an opportunity to work together. Now the tables are turned. This client decides, well, Marisa, I guess you're too busy, blah, 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 blah. You're busy. Well, it shows me their character and how their one-sidedness, their fixed mindset. And I had to tell the client, I had to come back because this is a learning experience. And what we need to do with our young people is to begin to take time to not only have these as adults, teach our young people that the same lessons we learn as adults, you're learning even in no matter what developmental stage you're at, you're always going to be learning these things. It's about character building. And I had to really say to that individual, listen, this point, that point, and this point, and bring them back into the sobriety of how they're behaving and how they're showing up with their character. And that's what we have to do with our young people. I know between yesterday and bringing a child up and today and bringing a child up is that some of the basics, and I think that we discussed this many months ago or even a year or so ago in regards to chores. There is a way that you develop and cultivate character by the chores and the routines in the home. Washing the dishes for a week. No, you don't want to wash the dishes, but you have to because this is a part of the family. This is a team. This is your role as a team player. These basic principles and disciplines, washing the dishes, doing the laundry, cleaning the house, being responsible for your younger siblings to a certain extent. These are all disciplines that raise up young people and build character. Well, if they're absent, then guess what? There's no character building. So there is no learning of, consequences. There's no learning of results. Basic discipline, basic knowing how to save your money, how to preserve your money. If you're given $5 at the beginning of the week, do you keep going to the candy store and spending that $5 up in the first day, or do you hold on to it? That's a discipline. When they move out, how do they maintain their own home? When they buy a car, when they have a car, how do they know how to fix a tire? These are some of the basic principles that back in the day, children learn. how to fix a tire. Why? So God forbid they ever break down and it's a tire issue, they know how to fix the tire themselves. That's before we had AAA and all of this roadside assistance, right? And we've taken away that responsibility. And when you take away that responsibility, you take away building of character. When you take away those responsibilities, you take away maturity. You take away responsibility. You take away a feeling of being prideful and proud in a positive way. So I know, Coach Ray, you talk about it all the time. It's like, it's the adults. Yeah. You say it all the time. And it is. And I hate to say it, but it is the adults. It takes a village, and we gotta get back to, I believe, the basics.
And even, I'm sorry, Miss Stephanie, you go ahead.
Thanks. Another thing is I feel like kids don't understand that failure is not permanent. Failure is temporary. You may be in the wrong place at the wrong time. It may be the wrong season or whatever. You may need more years of growing up before you can do something. But just because you fail at something once, kids are like, oh, I'm doomed. And then that gets in their head and they think they're worthless. And then they do things they shouldn't do.
And those are extremes. So we have to be careful of allowing our kids to get into extremes, because there's a root that takes place inside of them. It's like, I'm never going to do that again. Well, you can't say that, because there may be an opportunity, and now you got to eat those words because you said you never do it. And now you feel like, oh God, I can't, because now it's pride. I don't want to do it because I said I wasn't going to do it, and all these other things. So we want to make sure that it's a double-edged sword. We want to build their confidence, but we don't want to add to arrogance. We want them to be humble, but we also want them to be secure in knowing who they are. And so I agree. This strong balance in that, because I think that what's happening is, because they're young and they have the lack of maturity and lack of experience, it's manifesting as arrogance. It's manifesting as pride. And they don't understand it because they've not been around long enough to understand it, nor has anyone have the conversation with them so that they understand where this is coming from. But extremes are and when you do extremes, you're making a vow, and you don't want to make those kind of vows because it's very difficult morally later on, because now you're beholden to it. If anyone heard you say it, you're beholden to it. And that's another thing about young people, just like you saw peer pressure. If they said it, then now their friends are going to hold them to it, right? So we want to make sure that we teach them about extreme and an opportunity to take failure is not a bad thing, because you don't want to. You know how your gift will make room for you, but if your character ain't right, you won't stay there. So you don't want to go before you're ready either, right? So sometimes failing is in our best interest to make sure that we're properly prepared for something. So I believe that it's so important for us to understand words, afraid to use words that may be in society viewed negatively, which they're not negative. They're meaning that you're either not ready or that the opportunity is not for you at this time, for whatever those reasons are. But to take that challenge and say, hey, well, you know what? I'm going to work harder the next time. And sometimes it means even the next time, and maybe even the next time. And what may be involved here is character remaining intact, so that when you get the opportunity and it's presented to you and that door is open, that you're humble and that you receive it well and you handle it with respect at that time. So yeah, mindset shift, doing that mindset work is critically important, and it is designed to build confidence and self-awareness.
And it's never too early to start teaching kids about affirmations and posting words that are always in their mind. It's like teachers are great at putting affirmations in their classroom, but these kids need affirmations in their bedrooms. They need affirmations in the kitchen. They need to see their parents affirming themselves. And another thing with words and with maturity and everything, with Valentine's Day coming up, it's okay for guys to tell a girl how he feels. It's okay to write a love poem or to say how you feel. It does not mean you're weak as a man to tell someone how you feel.
It's not. And you know what else too with the affirmation part? It's nice that it's on the wall. It's nice that it's up. But we have pictures up in our homes and everything else that we walk by every day and forget that they're even there. In the classroom and at home, it should be important and valued to discuss the affirmation. What does that mean? What does that mean? How do you see that? How do you feel when you say it? Are you owning what you're saying in this affirmation, or are you saying it real quick? What's the deep meaning to you? When we have those meaningful conversations about, phrases, words, and quotes, and even when we're teaching, period, at all, are we teaching for deeper rooted understanding and knowledge of any kind of information we're receiving? That's why Own It BTG is about how are you connecting emotionally? How are you showing up emotionally? Not emotionally in the sense of, oh my God, whatever. How are you? Just like you said, Stephanie, how are you owning your feelings? When you express yourself, are you focused on being rejected, or is it a priority for you to be authentic? Right? So are we worried about what other people think, or are we going to be true to ourselves? Because that's where the moral conflict, anxiety comes from. Anxiety comes from a place where you are behaving one way when you believe another way. And so we want to make sure that we're teaching them to behave the way that they truly, wholeheartedly feel, not the way that they're compromising and fitting in. And it takes a lot to undo that. But when we start speaking to them from our own authenticity and your own passion and heart's drive.
Yeah, I think that
show up.
Oh, sorry. You. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were still talking.
No.
I think
Go
you
ahead.
have to look at it from when you are talking to these kids and you're talking to young people. First thing, and one of the things that I love to do is find out what they want out of life. Because some of them don't have direction because nobody's actually sat them down and said, hey, what do you want? Like, what?
Because the adults don't know.
Right.
The adults don't know for themselves.
So I always ask, like, what are your goals? Like, give me your top 3 goals. And then, cool, after I get that, let's figure out how we can achieve the shortest distance, the one that has the shortest distance first. What do we need to do? How do we expand that and break that down to where you can get there? And I think once we solidify the direction, the mindset is easy to shape and mold when they see it starts working. Because they have to see it. They got to trust that what you're saying is going to work. Right. So before we, above all anything else, they have to trust that what we say actually has validity to it. And that's when that's why you give them the little things to trust you in. Hey, try doing this first and then tell me what you think. And then when that works, and then you give them something else, tell me what you think. And then now you because you're consistent, they now started to trust you. And now there's a situation where they're like, wait a minute, this actually is working. So, okay, well, how'd you get to this place? Let me help you. Right. So now the door is open. Let me help you. Let me teach you how to change the way you think about things to show you that the way you were once thinking may not be that important to you.
And ask them, what do you see your life looking like? Start asking those questions that we think are for adults. Start asking them for the young people, because you don't want to be an adult and then start looking around and say, what do I want to do with my life? You want to, as long as you have a connection with young people, is to always ask them what it is that they want to do with their lives. You know how in the talk about prepping for your future. It's like provoking them to think about, you don't have to wait to get an internship. If you see some professionals, if there's a professional, industry or field that you're looking at as a teen, as a young person, and even if you have access to it earlier, if you could shadow someone, if you could sit in a doctor's office or in an attorney's firm, if you can sit in a courtroom, take away the dis-ease. Courtroom. You don't have to be in a courtroom because there's some violation that's taking place. You could be in the courtroom as long as it's legal and you have access to it, so that you can see a hearing, so that you can get familiar with what real life professional profiles really look like. Sit in a dentistry's office, see if you can shadow something, because if you say to a young person, what do you want with your future, and they have no idea the different occupation. In one issue, we listed a bunch of different occupations that are out there that we don't talk about, like stuff that we never even think about. There's different levels to being in the dental industry, right? There's different aspects of how you can show up. There's different aspects of how you can show up in the medical field, in the insurance field, even in sports. You don't necessarily have to be, can actually be someone who does a radio show. There's so many different opportunities. But if a young person is questioned about what it is that they want in their life, and they have no idea, they don't have a menu to select from to even begin to cultivate an idea or a vision for a future, then we're talking to them, like in the abyss. We got to give them something concrete that they can focus on. I remember at AT&T, I forget what it was called, did these interviews with young people. And at the time, it was like, great. Oh, okay, we're going to get these young people. We're going to bring them together, and they're going to talk about what it is that they want to do with their future. Well, guess what? They're puppets. They're going to say anything because they're in front of the camera. I didn't realize that until years later when I left the company and began to think about, behavioral responses, how people show up, authenticity. And I said, you know what? These young people were put in front of a camera, and they said the camera the people wanted to hear. What needed to be done was, hey, you want to go in that career? Well, we got you assigned to so-and-so in room blah, 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 blah. We got you assigned to so, and you're going to spend a day watching an engineer. And there's so many different types of engineers: civil engineers, electrical engineers, software designers. So there's so much work that's out there that can be done, that we need to start having the conversation with young people that says, hey, what is it that you, how's your cognition? How do you learn? Do you learn with your hands? Do you learn listening? Do you learn by observing and assessing? Are you analytical? Are you judging? Do you judge certain things? Learning what makes them tick and what ticks them off. That's when you're going deep into the core of who they are. And then you're starting to introduce them to them a way of, doing that self-evaluation, right? That well, do I like that? How did I feel about, cause them to think. Like Stephanie said, when a guy wants to say something to a girl and they really like them, how did I feel about her response? Did you feel good about that? Or did you not feel good about that? And then also too, if someone does not receive you, if you have said, I really like you, blah, 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 and they don't receive you, we got to teach our young people, not that they discard the person, but they understand that your value is greater than that. It does not mean that you're less. It means that you were not their choice. So you got to keep at this thing, because there's going to be someone out there that's going to see you, and they're going to value everything about you. We got to start having those deep-rooted, take your time, stop rushing conversations. Don't rush those kids away. Start really, really getting into, how do you feel? How did you feel about how, what they said and how they responded to it? And let them say how they feel.
Right.
Deep enough, opening up. And then you'll begin to give them a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. Because if they feel that you're judging them, if they feel that what they say is not going to meet your expectations, they're going to clank down and not talk. And you want them talking. You want them talking so much that, one, you get to know what's on their heart so that you can watch and you can help guide them. Not be the know-all, but just help guide them. And they'll begin to know them that, I'm telling you, they will pressure their peers. Their peers will no longer pressure them, because they will build up and have that self-confidence that's required for them to not only set a goal, but to also achieve it. And so we're going to close out. Coach Ray, I know you got some. Stephanie, I'm going to let you go. And then Coach Ray, you're going to let you have the floor to take us right on home. Stephanie, what are your closing thoughts?
You know, talking about words and everything, think about when you say something to someone, and teach your kids this too. Ask the other person, how did you feel when you said that? Did they feel authentic when they said that? Did they feel like they were just saying what they thought someone wanted to hear? I don't remember. That really stuck with me. Someone said that this week, to ask people that. And I'm like, I know a lot of people that I need to ask them, how did you feel when they said that? Or is that how you wanted that to come across? Mm-hmm. People don't realize what they're saying all the time.
Yes. A communication. You can either offend or you can influence. So, Coach Ray?
At the end of the day, when we're talking about the mindset of a kid, we got to remember that they're still kids. And the expectations for them to have the sharpest mindset at the ages that we want them to have it is counterproductive to our roles as adults. Our roles as adults should be to shape and mold them so they have a strong mindset when they need it later. So we have to get out of, and I'm not, this is not us, because us three, we understand. But as adults, we have to look at it from the perspective of they're still learning.
Absolutely.
They still don't know their deficiencies. They still don't know their fears fully. They still don't know their emotional strength yet. So when we're trying to get them to realize the potential that they don't know they have yet, we got to exhibit a lot of grace. We got to exhibit a lot of patience to get them to where we need them at. So I say that, and I end with this: have a little patience with the kids, because a lot of their mindsets have been shaped by what they've seen and not what they know.
Yeah. You're so right. That's why I said you got to slow down. Stop having quick conversations. Don't brush them off. Make sure that you're available to them. Like I said, my kids are 37 and 32. So I have been down the road, and my grandchild is 14. She'll be 15 this year. And so when I said come to a place of being seasoned and knowing that you have to slow down and let kids have your time and your attention so that they are able to cultivate that mindset and begin to shift it. You got to be able to do that time. You got to make ourselves available to our young people. And so this has been really, really, really good. I love it. I'm so I love it. I'm so thankful for you guys. And anyway, ladies and gentlemen, have a great weekend.
And y'all be blessed.
It's almost Friday. So enjoy yourself. Take care. Be blessed. We'll see you soon.
All right. God bless. Good night.